Matar and Michael R Fletcher. Now sit back and prepare to be entertained. Welcome to the Dripping Bucket Podcast.
Greetings and welcome to the Dripping Bucket Podcast with your hosts Krystle Matar and Morley Gray Mike Fletcher,
who has no color today, may never have
today.
color again.
It has been drained from reality.
Yeah.
So this is our first episode, and we're just going to chat about what we want to do and what the plan is for this. And we don't actually know because we haven't made notes or discussed this in any great detail. So what you're getting is real time, two people figuring out what the fuck they're going to do with a podcast.
But it's so true to us. So I feel like having much more of a plan would have been deeply dishonest and set a bar that we never would have reached again.
So that slick first episode and
exactly, so professional, and then it just immediately went downhill. Let's not do that. Let's not make false promises.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess who we are and why we think we're important enough to do a podcast could help. You have books. I can see some of them behind your head. My husband loves that particular trilogy. He says you're good stuff. So do you want to talk about them, or do you want to talk about any of your other books? Or
I don't know. Sure. Let's. I'm just going to gloss over stuff because at this point there's
a lot.
I actually don't know how many books I have. 14. I'm not sure how many are published yet. And yeah. So
to write so much that you don't know how many books you have, that's the dream. I gotta write faster.
I mean, it helps that I'm super forgetful. And I have to, every time somebody asks, I have to open up the Goodreads page and kind of 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So I've got 3 completed trilogies. The Manifest Delusions trilogy, the first book, which was published by Harper Voyager in 2015.
Beyond Redemption.
The Obsidian Path trilogy, which you can kind of see behind me there, which is...
One of which was a Spiffbo finalist.
Yeah, Spiffbo finalist, came second that year. And that's, call it dark fantasy, I guess. And then the City of Sacrifice series, which was just completed, I don't know, a month or 2 ago. The 3rd book came out, which is kind of mad gods and narcotics kind of stuff.
Also dark.
Yeah, well, it's
that's why Fletcher doesn't have color.
No,
it was revoked.
In my life. And then a couple of standalones and a bunch of other stuff that's happening and coming out. So, Krystle, how about you?
Yeah, I only have those 2. So Legacy of the Brightwash, which was a Spiffbo finalist a couple of years ago, also came in second. Man, what is time? And then the sequel, Legacy of Brick and Bone, which came out last year now. And then a couple of anthologies and a giant ass stack of works in progress that I want to publish sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
It's kind of... Brightwash is kind of like Gaslamp, if Ripper Street, but make it fantasy. But then the second book blows it out to more epic political scale, but also centers on a boxing match that pleasantly surprises people how invested they get into this fantasy boxing. So definitely genre blending, and I only plan to do more genre blending with other series. So that's me.
Cool. Which reminds me, I keep forgetting I want a signed paperback.
Oh yeah. So, hardcover.
Hardcover.
I'm gonna send you a hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some, so I can finally give me your address on this live recording.
It's already weird enough with people messaging me. We don't need them stopping by.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So what would you like to see happen with this podcast? What are you thinking? What's your goal?
What I was most interested in was not only having a podcast by writers for writers, but to approach storytelling in a way that's also going to be accessible for bloggers and readers. to come on, so it's not just us writers droning on about writing. And certainly there will be some of that because we do a lot of it. But I also wanted to be able to talk about books and kind of how they form us as a community, so that we can have like some bloggers on to talk about, because like we can't do this, especially in indie circles. We can't do this without bloggers having our backs. And I feel like it would be nice to hear from them too about like what gets them invested in stories and what makes memorable stories from a reader's perspective. So I'd like to bridge the gap a bit more than just writing by writers. So hopefully that's what you had in mind too.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be bored or be boring. So I like not being sort of too tied down to one thing.
Yeah.
Like I kind of foresee some episodes might be bordering on writing advice, or at least
Yeah.
like, here's how we approach these various
What works
issues.
for us. Yeah.
And some will just be like interviews with writers we love,
Yeah.
or like our favorite bloggers and reviewers, podcasters, whatever. I think between the two of us, we probably have a fairly sizable reach
pretty big.
for people we can kind of annoy.
And I think it'll be I mean, we already do, so we're just gonna annoy them and film it now. I think it'll be fun too to do like launch parties with people if possible, where we do a little live stream on their big book birthday, because that's a lot of fun, and it's something that I think us in the post pandemic world missed out on. Like I published in 2021. I didn't get to do anything for my book. Internet friends pulled together a PayPal and bought me a bottle of really nice whiskey, which was awesome. But I think this could be a fun platform for people to party, but stay inside.
Party without having to actually interact with other humans.
Exactly. The introvert
wants to
party.
do that anyway.
Exactly.
It's like, I gotta change out of my pajamas? Like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, so long as this top up looks okay, you're fine.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think that's a great plan. So we talked about format. We were thinking of keeping it like short episodes, sort of 20 minutes ish. And then
20 to 30.
Yeah.
And then eventually we just have to shut the hell up. End the recording. But if we're really on a roll, we can do a new recording and keep going and have part 1, part 2. And then that makes our lives easier, because then we'll have stacked content. Make it look like we know what we're doing. We're totally stealing that format from Jed and the rest of you guys. But it worked.
Yeah, that was all Jed that set that up, and sort of he was the mastermind behind all of that. Which is hilarious. I mean, he actually tricked everybody into doing it with him. Because we were like, Jed who? And he's like, oh, Rob Hayes has agreed to do it. And I'm like, Rob's in? Okay. And then he talks to Rob and he's like, oh, Dirk Ashton said yes. I was like, oh, Dirk's in? All right, I guess so. All right. We get there and it's kind of like,
and look at him now. He's like, he's really taken off these days too.
He's killing it.
Yeah, good for him. He's conned his way into a whole podcast, but I respect it. I respect the con job.
Yeah, it's actually doing the Wizards, Warriors, and Words podcast is kind of why I want to do this one.
Yeah,
I actually miss doing that. I miss the hanging out and the conversations with people. I mean,
talking about books.
Like my kid fucks off during the day. And it's basically, I'm here by myself in my basement, which is, it's a lovely basement, but let's be honest. It is.
Great art on the walls.
Yeah. And, I don't sort of see or interact with humans beyond, Facebook and Twitter.
Especially like writing humans. I think that's such a special community to find. Like, I used to think that I was an introvert. But actually I was just really bad at talking about anything except writing. And then I found a bunch of other writers and it's like, oh no, I like this talking stuff. This is fun if I know what I'm doing. Not that I actually know what I'm doing, but I can pretend that I know what I'm doing when we're talking about books and stories. Yeah. So
we can fake this.
Yeah. So then, jumping off into books and stories, um, what's like your origin story as a storyteller? Like, what would, if you could trace it back to like a moment where you're like, fuck, I want to do this. This is me.
Yeah.
Is there a book at the root of that, or a movie, or anything
Yeah,
specific?
there's a book.
Yeah.
So it's probably, I would have been what, maybe 13 or 14 years old when I discovered
That's the
Michael
age where we still know
Moorcock's.
how to dream.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Stormbringer books, the Elric
Okay.
series.
Yeah.
And I read those, and I was just, that was it. I was
Yeah.
all in fantasy, and I started reading those because I just got into Dungeons and Dragons. There was a Dungeons and Dragons club at the high school that I went to,
Nice.
and then I was just all in, and I wanted to tell my own stories, which was initially, it was all just D&D
Not good.
campaigns. Well, yeah, the campaigns were, that was fun because there's no sort of like written evidence of it afterwards.
Right.
You know?
You just walk away feeling like, yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it for me. I mean, I joke about it, but Blackstone Heart, the Obsidian Path, really is sort of like an ode to Stormbringer for me. It's
Oh, cool.
it's a Michael Moorcock fanfic, basically.
Interesting that it Blackstone Heart's actually kind of late in your catalog, like, because you had quite a few out before you hit Blackstone Heart,
Yeah,
the book that was trying to be YA, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually, the first time I tried to write that book was in, I think, '94.
Oh, okay.
And I was too young. I was too lazy. Writing, I didn't know that writing was going to be difficult. I was like,
Yeah.
how hard can this be? And then it was like, oh, fuck,
How
this is
hard?
actual like effort. Holy shit. And I was just,
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that. And so
Yeah.
I ditched it. It came back to writing in 2008
Oh,
to
cool.
write
Okay.
Ghosts of Tomorrow. And then I kind of like 2016, 2017, somewhere in there,
That sounds about
was
right.
like,
Because you
finally
were
felt ready to try that story again. Cause I was still like, even after all those years, I was still thinking about it.
That's neat. I didn't know that backstory, that it was like kind of an original project that you circled back to.
Yeah. I
And
still
it,
have the original document too. And it's,
oh yeah, oh that's so
it's
bad.
so bad. It's hilariously bad.
Amazing.
None of
That's
it was
awesome.
salvageable. Like not a
Yeah,
single word.
but like the core of it,
Yeah.
the
The
more
core character and the
yeah,
idea was there.
that's
But
cool.
yeah. Yeah. And what was it for you?
I mean, for me, it was David Gemmell. I was already a fantasy reader. Like, I was kind of born into it. Like, my parents met at a D&D game, so it's like in my genome, I guess. And my dad always had stuff. Lord of the Rings, obviously. Wheel of Time, he had. Cherry Goodkind, he had. So it was always part of life. But I don't know, man. There was something about that first David Gemmell novel, which was actually Midnight Falcon, so book 2 of his Regante series. But I wanted Stormrider. And at the time, I was like 12 or 13, so it was not my money I was trying to spend. And Stormrider was only in the big trade paperback style, but Midnight Falcon was mass market paperback, so it was like less than $10. And my grandma was like, well, I've never bought this author for you before, so try this cheaper one. And if you still like it, we'll come back and we'll get the $20
Who cares that
book.
it's book 2?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, those were the only 2 they had in the store at the time. But Gemmell, like, he writes in such a way that each story does connect, but they also stand alone. So it worked out. It worked out. And that book, Bane specifically, it was so different from my dad's fantasy, because in my dad's fantasy, the heroes were truly heroic. And they really didn't have a lot of flaws. And I was like, man, can't relate. Like, I can't with these guys that always know they're doing the right thing. But Bane is so filled with rage. but also like he just wants to be noble, but he really struggles at it. And it was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Like, I'm writing fantasy and I'm writing it like this. And that was it. That's kind of, and there's a long cyclical story of falling in and out of love with fantasy, but I came back and no looking back now. So there you go. About the same age as you, but a little bit less time ago.
Fuck off.
Yes. It wouldn't be us if I didn't call you old once and then made you tell me to fuck off.
My back hurts.
Yeah, mine too, though, so it's okay. I'm older than I feel. Wait, no. I feel older than I am. There we go. I got it. So yeah,
that's cool.
I guess,
so it's the anti-hero kind of for both of us then.
Yeah,
So,
and I guess
not quite hero. Flawed.
That can't possibly be surprising once you read any of our work, because that shiny fantasy is and I'm not saying that people who enjoy it are in any way flawed. I am happy for them, but man, that is not my cup of beer. Like, I just can't. I just can't. I can't invest in a story where for sure that people are doing the right thing. It just
doesn't ring true, right? I mean, reality's not like that, and the people who do know for sure that they're doing the right thing
are probably evil
assholes.
as fuck.
Yeah.
Just, and see, now that's a story I would be interested in telling. The guy who's absolutely positive that he's doing the right thing, but is actually slowly destroying the world and everyone around him.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, for me, that's the City of Sacrifice trilogy. One of the
there you
characters.
go. I gotta read it.
He knows he's doing the right thing.
Red flag.
Yeah.
So,
who would you name 2 or 3 people, writers, bloggers, whatever you want? Who are the first people you'd like to reach out to?
Clayton. No,
never heard of him.
Yeah, right. It's a young man by the name of Clayton Snyder who co-wrote a couple of books that happened to be really popular, and I think one of them was also written by Michael R Fletcher, or maybe 2 of them, or is it 3 of them?
Just 2. So.
Just 2? Okay. I actually didn't know. And then he's currently a SPIFBO finalist. For people who genuinely don't know who I'm talking about, his book Cold West is about to go through the SPIFBO gauntlet. Godspeed, Clayton. I love you. I'm sorry.
Poor guy.
He's the first one that I thought of that the 3 of us have to do this together. He has to be a recurring guest.
Yeah.
The unofficial third, Yeah,
we have to drag him out of his shell. Maybe we can get him drunk or something first.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just send him a bottle of whiskey and then go, hey, by the way. What about you? Did you have any off the top of your head? Other than the loser that I said?
Yeah. So I got kind of 2. One's a group. I'd love to have the Wizards, Warriors, and Words lads on.
Okay.
To just sort of as a
memories,
get the old gang back together, and sort of talk about what they're doing, because everyone's obviously got new projects going. Jed's sort of launched this editing book doctor kind of business that's doing really well.
Didn't he also launch a computer game, or was he?
He wrote. He spent a year and a half writing a monster huge computer game that apparently is doing really well.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Dirk has Kraken Rider Z or Z, depending on what country you're in. And Rob. He's got so many books.
Rob and his hat.
Yep. Yeah. Rob's hat does all the work. Yeah. Also, I'd love to try and get Mark Lawrence on. I'd love to get him to talk about
SPIFBO.
The SPFBO sort of from his side. What it's like, for him doing all that.
Yeah, it's on cycle 9 now. Yeah, cycle 10's coming up this year, halfway through the year. So, and it's hopping over there these days. this last one filled up in like an
42
hour.
minutes, I believe.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough next year. Godspeed to 300 plus however many other thousands of people are hoping to get in.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a complicated contest, and you know, but it definitely um, complicated in that humans are complicated, and it's hard for us to be objective no matter how hard we try. But also like the I don't know, the respect around it has, I think, is largely responsible for the growing momentum of respect towards indie in general. So definitely cheers to
Are
Mark
you
for
a guest judge this year?
yeah, I'm with Before We Go blog. I guess Beth ran in some health troubles last year, and just by nature of me being the loudest person in the room, while she wasn't there supervising me, I kind of took over the team. So I'm team leader now, and I'll be reviewing a couple of books. I cannot do all 12, but we'll definitely have a couple people per book. And one of our judges has already finished every single book, so
Whoa.
we're yeah. He's I don't know. I can't. Hats off, man. Like he did a lot of them over the holidays, and I was just like, man, you're making me look bad, dude. But yeah, we'll have at least two, maybe more people per review, and I'll do however many I can. And yeah, we'll get some books.
Cool.
Hopefully, the
Yeah.
buzz that they deserve.
Yep. I did a like guest judge spot last year with a fantasy book critic, and it was way harder than I expected.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's easy for the writers, for us the writers, and I say this as somebody who was us the writers one year, to go, they should do this, they should do that, but then I was like, okay, well, if I think I can do better, then I guess I should prove it. And then I'm like, fuck, this is hard, man.
yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so looks like we are hitting
Yeah.
around the 20-minute
20 minutes?
mark. Let's wrap up this
Sign off.
episode. And so we're actually, oh my god, we're like
Right
super
on.
slickly professional. We
Yeah.
nailed this.
First time, last time. Okay, well, thank you, everyone who joined us for our inaugural episode, and we'll catch you, hopefully, pretty soon.
Yeah. All right, thanks, folks. Later.